Our country is more divided than ever before, and with the election being so close, everyone is picking a side. These are some of the biggest influencers who have pitched their tent in the red corner. One of them has even gone as far as spending over $100 million to show just how much he wants the MAGA king to rule again. Who are these influencers, and do they actually like and believe in Donald Trump as they claim? Or is there a secret incentive that they stand to gain if he does become president? Although social media influencer, in the conventional sense of the word, does not quite define what he does, you'd have to agree that he is an influencer to some degree. Not only does Musk own one of the world's largest and most visited social media platforms, X, with about 600 million users, his account is also the most followed on the app, with 200 million followers. That's more than 30% of users on the platform. Social media influence doesn't get any bigger than this. Elon Musk's support for Donald Trump is notable because he has supported the Democratic Party in the past. In 2016, he voted for Hillary Clinton and endorsed Andrew Yang in the 2020 primaries. He also claims to have voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 elections. But in 2022, he stated that he was shifting towards the Republican part of the divide and encouraged voters to choose the party in the elections that year. Suspicions about his support for Trump began to surface when he restored his account to the app that year. However, he eliminated all doubts, becoming more vocal about his support in July this year. It started when Bloomberg reported that he had donated a sizable amount to American PAC, a group dedicated to getting Trump to the White House. Shortly after, he stated in an interview that he actually created the group and has ramped up his support for Trump both online and offline. In August, jumped on an X Spaces session that lasted over 2 hours, inviting their tens of millions of followers to listen in. Elon even suggested that Donald Trump recruit him to serve in his cabinet, to which Trump gladly agreed.
Said if he is elected, he would tap Tesla CEO Elon Musk for a cabinet position.
Less than 2 months later, the Federal Election Commission filings revealed that he donated $75 million to American PAC, which in turn began to award $1 million daily to voters who signed a petition for the First and Second Amendments to the Constitution. He also began to show up physically at DT campaign events. These days, he spends most of his time praising Trump and encouraging people to vote for him.
But there's a lot of people out there who need to vote for President Trump, okay?
While constantly shooting bitter criticism at Kamala Harris, the candidate for the opposing Democratic Party. There have also been rumors that he manipulates X to amplify tweets supporting his candidate or criticizing Harris while preventing misinformation from spreading on the platform. What exactly does Elon Musk stand to gain from all these, though? One speculation is that it is a purely business-oriented move. He clearly wants to do a lot with his technology-driven businesses, but government regulations go a long way to make or mar the success of his projects. Observers believe that by supporting DT's campaign, the ex-president would be forced to consider him when making decisions that could affect his businesses in the future. Reactions to Elon Musk's goal to make America great again.
America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before.
Have varied among both Republican and Democrat supporters. Some are excited to have such an influential figure supporting their preferred candidate, while others are concerned that he might sway government officials later, interfering with what democracy should be. What exactly is the big deal about social media influencers supporting Donald Trump or any other political candidate at that? Why should we care? Well, remember how you decided to try out a new recipe or visit a restaurant because your favorite social media creator recommended it? Or how you decided to check out a new song just because they used it as the audio for their TikTok? That's exactly what happens when they share their political views, no matter how subtle. Influencers have millions of followers that cut across different ages, ethnicities, and genders. By partnering with political candidates, they give them even more reach than traditional media ever could. Influencers are also so-called because a lot of people trust their opinions, and so they have more effect on public opinion than most people like to admit. The same way influencers can convince their followers to hop on the hottest dance trends or slangs, they can affect every other area of life, including political decisions. This is how they are able to drive voter mobilization, since they have access to young people who normally would not be as interested in politics. Think about the number of young people in the United States who are qualified to vote, and you'll see why this is a big deal. If you're not convinced, consider the role that social media has played in some of the world's biggest political movements in recent times. The Black Lives Matter movement gained global attention as BLM hashtags continued to trend with influencers leading the charge. We all saw how that translated to real life on the streets, didn't we? We've also noticed crucial changes in our world since the #MeToo hashtag began to appear and trend on social media. Instances like these make it obvious that social media is just as powerful as life offline, if not more. If a person is influential there, best believe they have a say on what happens in real life. Actually, social media is real life now, and that makes it all the more important. We must also consider the possibility that social media influencers can tilt their influence in the direction of the money. Think about it. Influencing is a full-time job for these folks, and they will take on the best-paying gigs, even if they are political figures they might not personally agree with. This isn't merely hearsay, by the way. In September this year, US prosecutors alleged that an American media company had paid some influencers to create and post videos that favored the Kremlin. The source of these funds was allegedly 2 Russian nationals working for a Putin-controlled news network with the aim of interfering with the upcoming US elections. Apparently, the Tennessee-based company behind the influencers worked with them to push narratives that would lead to divisions within the country, turning the US government's attention from subjects Russia was interested in, like the war in Ukraine. Some of the evidence that has been found so far points to Tenet Media as the company being spoken of. This is the company under which YouTubers like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson work. Altogether, these influencers have a total subscriber count of 6.3 million on the app. As if to bolster the suspicion, YouTube has closed down the Tenet Media channel and others operated by its owner. However, the case is still being investigated. This just goes to show that we'd be ignorant to overlook the possibility that social media influencers can be paid to canvass votes for a specific candidate. And you know who has enough money to do this? Donald Trump, the billionaire. This isn't to say that that's exactly what is happening with the influencers supporting him, but it's certainly worth pondering on. Donald Trump is already an influential figure thanks to his wealth, his big persona, and, of course, his past role as the President of the United States of America. Combine his influence with that of top social media influencers, and you'd have Trump's name on everyone's lips. Would this be good or bad? We'll let you decide. 29-year-old Logan Paul has more than 23 million subscribers on his personal YouTube channel and almost 5 million on the Impulsive podcast channel. With 27 million followers on Instagram, 18 million on TikTok, and 6 million on Twitter, he's one of the most influential people of his generation. Just look at how fast Prime flies off the shelf.
Excuse me, do you stock that Prime Energy drink here?
And you can't even get his new product, Lunchly, because it's almost always sold out, even with all the controversy surrounding it. Logan has always been a controversial figure, so it wasn't that much of a surprise when he endorsed Donald Trump. To announce his guest appearance on the Impulsive podcast, Donald Trump posted a TikTok hinting at a face-off with the social media influencer. In the 6-second video, they approached each other until their noses were only inches apart. Trump ended up laughing and pulling Logan in for what looked like a hug. The influencer followed with pictures on X, one where they both held Paul's WWE Championship belt and another where he was interviewing Trump with Mike Majlak, his co-host. The two had a conversation that lasted for about 45 minutes. They discussed a wide range of matters, including his felony conviction, Russia and Vladimir Putin, aliens, and even Elon Musk. At the start of the podcast, Trump gave Logan a t-shirt with his mugshot on it after the show. "Never surrender," it read. As he received the gift, he said to Trump, "You're a gangster," in what sounded more like a compliment. That podcast now has over 6.5 million views on YouTube. Adin Ross is a 24-year-old YouTuber and online streamer with more than 4.5 million YouTube subscribers and about 1.5 million followers on Kick. He also co-owns Kick and is its most followed streamer. Prior to streaming on Kick, Adin had a Twitch channel where he regularly streamed from 2014 until he was banned from the platform in 2023 for what Twitch referred to as unmoderated hateful conduct in chat. Apparently, he had used homophobic slurs and made racist and anti-Semitic remarks.
Wait, did he say anything crazy? Or no?
Adin Ross hosted Donald Trump on his Kick livestream in August. Apparently, he is friends with Trump's 18-year-old son, Barron Trump, who is also a big fan of the streamer. During the interview, the pair talked about Trump's relationship with other world leaders like Kim Jong-un of North Korea and Xi Jinping of China. He also got the president to react to pictures of politicians and other people. Elon Musk's name also came up here, just like it did on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul. At the end of the live stream, Adin gifted Trump a Cybertruck and a Rolex watch worth over $300,000. This is where things took a weird turn as listeners began to suspect that these gifts were bribes. I have a friend who's currently being treated very unfair by District Attorney Willis. He's a rapper named Young Thug. Adin Ross said at some point during the live stream, "I was just wondering if there's a way that we could make sure he..." Why were people concerned? Well, Donald Trump has a history of helping rappers in sensitive legal situations. On his final day in office back in 2021, he granted a full pardon to Lil Wayne, who had been found guilty of possessing a firearm and ammunition as a prior felony offender. Trump also granted a commutation to Kodak Black, another rapper who had been charged with and found guilty of unlawful possession of marijuana, criminal possession of a weapon, and even first-degree criminal sexual conduct. Since Adin Ross is already a controversial personality, not many people were surprised at how their interaction went. Stream Charts reported that the live stream had over 580,000 viewers and is the third most concurrently viewed live stream on the platform this year. Although some of the social media influencers who have expressed support for Donald Trump are people in their 20s, there are some who are older apart from Elon Musk. One of the most prominent among them is Theodore Kapitani von Kurnatovsky III, popularly known as Theo Von. Theo is best known for his stand-up comedy, but he also has a podcast called This Past Weekend. The podcast, which he also uploads to his YouTube channel with over 3.2 million subscribers, was launched in 2016. Theo also has 7 million followers on Instagram, 7 million on TikTok, and 1.5 million on X. Theo Von hosted Donald Trump on This Past Weekend in August. They talked for about an hour on the podcast, touching rather unconventional topics like drug and alcohol use. The conversation about alcohol was especially interesting since Donald Trump is a known teetotaler. It was also the last thing people expected to hear from him on a show with the elections right around the corner. Theo and Trump eventually got to politics, discussing how the Trump administration would combat drug abuse in the United States.
And there's that Sackler family that pretty much got away with it. You know, they had a financial slap on the wrist, but we're one of the only countries that allows drug advertisements and pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television. Like, what do you think are things that you can do to help curtail that when you get into office?
So, well, we did a great job. Does
that make sense or not?
Yes,
that question?
it does make sense. And we had committees, blue ribbon committees in certain cases, but committees that would meet. The big problem we have is, fentanyl is probably the biggest. Opioid is bad. Opioid is bad too.
While Theo Von has not blatantly expressed support for Donald Trump in the upcoming elections, many have seen the Republicans' presence on his podcast as a form of endorsement. That episode of the This Last Weekend podcast now has 14 million views on YouTube. With the recent appearances that Donald Trump has made on similar podcasts, it would appear that he was on a tour of podcasts with predominantly male listeners. Apparently, there's a political gender gap between Kamala Harris, who has more young women supporting her, and Donald Trump, who has more young men supporting him. According to a recent Harvard youth poll, 70% of women under 30 support her, while 23% of them said they would vote for Trump. Of the men in the same age group, 53% said they would vote for Kamala Harris, while 36% said they were going for Trump. His interactions with these influencers seemed to go beyond getting votes from the general public, but rather from a specific set of people, young men. The 2024 presidential election is one of the most divisive in U.S. history. For one, the ideologies of the Republican and Democratic parties are more polarized than ever. Donald Trump's decision to run again, despite his tumultuous first term as President of the United States and the failed assassination attempts, have also contributed to the buzz around the elections. Considering these, it is important that you pay close attention to each candidate before you make a choice. Endorsements by social media influencers shouldn't form the basis for your vote. That said, click here to see the biggest social media influencers who are backing Kamala Harris up for the 2024 election.